Okay, here's a video on setting up soft limits for your CNC machine. The soft limits are controlled by your max travel. So right here, 130 through 132. There are two different versions of gerbil, a positive build and a negative build. I supply my Demon controllers with a positive build, but a lot of them out there are negative builds. And what that means is when we home the machine to front, left, and up, your machine settings would be negative whatever the max travel is. Okay, now that way makes it a slightly more difficult to figure out or fine tune your soft limits, but it just takes math. It takes knowing that your current max travel are in this case like the 762. You just have to know that from that point of where you homed it, it is saying that the 0 is 762 in the other direction. But we're going to just really concentrate on the positive build right here. So the reason why you want to use soft limits instead of hard limits, if we look up here, we have soft limits and we have hard limits. Hard limits are using the physical connection for the limit switches. And when it's sensed, when it actually hits, it'll cause an issue. Okay, or an alarm. So the problem is with that is these machines, especially in the hobby world, are susceptible to false triggers. So especially the limit switches, a lot of times limit switches don't have good shielding, or they use smaller wire, or they go past more powerful signals wires, which will when two wires cross, it can actually kind of bleed into the other one because of the thinner jacket. So the best thing to do is to stay away from hard limits. So in that being said, we use these switches only as homing switches. So we find our machine 0, and from there it's all taken over by the software. Okay, so the best way to figure out your max travel, okay, is to turn off your soft limits but turn on homing. So once you know that the machine jogs in the right direction, you can finally turn on homing, but you can leave off soft limits. And then what you're going to do is you are going to jog the machine as far back as you can safely go, just before it hits anything like my blue zip ties or whatnot. Anything before where you feel comfortable. So jog as far back as where you feel comfortable. And from there, all you have to do is you look at your machine position, okay, and you go ahead and use that as your max travel numbers right down there. Now for the CNC machines, the CNC for newbie machines, there are some baselines to use, okay, but you might be able to fine tune them or get a little bit more out of them by doing this process. Now the difficult part here, so that's pretty straightforward. Just jogging the machine back, finding where the maximum travel is, setting that as your distance here. And you know, to anybody who doesn't know how to set any of these numbers, all you do is you type in $132 or whatnot. I got my keyboard. My keyboard controls enabled, so I got to be careful which buttons I click. But so we go 132 equals, and then you type in the new number and you hit enter, and you do that, and it will change the numbers there, and you can then verify that they changed by doing $$ enter, and it will read you out your current gerbil settings to verify that it changed, that the change took. So to do it in negative, that's where it gets really tricky. You would home your machine, okay, and then you would jog the machine again to the maximum distance that it can go. And if your numbers then change to a positive, that means you're going farther than your 0, and then you can actually add that distance to your current max travel if you have a negative build of gerbil. Otherwise, what you can do is you can jog it to the machine 0 location, which would be in the back corner, and then you can measure manually how many more millimeters you think you can safely travel, and then add that to there. How soft limits work is as soon as you try to send a code that would violate that, it will error. Here I am using, here we'll preview this for Lee. Here is the pendant, the gerbil pendant that he is putting out, and I've been using it. This is a variant of what this isn't his final design. This was one he made for me to test, and man, I love it. I use it every day. It's for my simplified version of Universal G-code sender, but it works really well for jogging. The biggest thing to remember is to, when you're going to use it, click someplace in this window here. You don't want to be you don't want to have the cursor up here, because it'll start typing. It sends keyboard commands. It'll start sending commands. So what we do is we'll click here and then we can use it. If I hit the minus button, it'll subtract the 10th, all that. If you hit the plus, it goes up. If you hit times 10, it'll go times 10. Okay, we're going to set it to an inch. That's all these buttons here. And we're just going to jog it around. Okay. Now I'm going to jog it over to the right, jog it over to the left. Now what I'm going to do, oh, did you see what I did? Is I hit it too hard, and it ended up erring. So let's see if I can get it to do the soft limits. Okay, one more inch will, on the X, will send it to alarm. So there we are. We have the alarm. An error was detected. Soft limits. Streaming has been paused. Okay. The only way I really know how to get out of this, or the way I do, is I close it, open it, and then rehome. If you notice, this doesn't work, or at least in this version, it doesn't work. Either it does anything else at this moment. So you close it, open it, let it fully load, go into alarm state, and then home the machine. So that's it. That's how to set up soft limits. If you're still having issues, feel free to message me or email me, and I'll try to help you out. But that is soft limits in a nutshell. Keeps you from crashing your machine. Again, don't use hard limits. It's susceptible to false triggers, and to utilize soft or hard limits, you would have to have a limit switch for both directions of travel on every axis, which just complicates things. So that's that.